Hey everyone, I'm Sheri, the Organic Pet Lady and the host of Pet Prep Radio. I extend a hearty welcome to everyone attending Autumnfest 2015. For those of you who don't know what Pet Prep Radio is all about, it's a show that's geared toward helping pets and their people live a more healthy and happy life, offering alternative ways of living, healing, and so much more. Our shows can be found on the archive section at American Preppers Radio Network, iTunes, and soon to be uploaded on our YouTube channel, Pet Prep Radio. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest too. New shows are coming and a new website, so make sure that you check us out. Pick up a flyer from Peggy Sue, Glenn, or one of the many amazing volunteers here at Autumnfest 2015. I'm here today to share with you a series of interviews from my radio show with a dear friend and awesome human being who is also a human doing, Rick Simpson, whom many of you may be familiar with. Rick Simpson is the godfather of the cannabis hemp oil movement, who discovered how to make the essential oil from the cannabis hemp plant and used it to heal himself, his family, and countless thousands of others. You may have seen his movie on YouTube titled Run from the Cure, and if you haven't, you certainly should make the time to watch it. It changed my life. Rick and I, with my special guest Brian Yell, who is also a guest speaker here at Autumnfest 2015, were scheduled to do an interview for this event specifically, but due to Rick Simpson being in India, there were too many difficulties due to lack of internet and phone access, as well as the 9.5-hour time difference, not to mention that giant storm that's going on. So it just wasn't possible to get it done. I do have to say, though, we did give it the old college try. In interview number 1, we'll discuss an intro to a 3-part series about hemp oil, healing people and pets, and some of the issues surrounding this topic. So sit back and don't miss a single minute of the pre-recorded shows. You will be able to access each of these shows later if you care to hear them again. Be sure to pick up some info from Glenn or Peggy Sue before you leave, and be sure to tell us here at Pet Prep Radio Show what you thought. Enjoy the interview.
Pet Prep Radio with Sheri, the Organic Pet Lady, is on the air. Tune in for a show loaded with information on preparedness for pets and their people too. If you're an animal lover, then this is the show for you. And now, the host of Pet Prep Radio, Sheri, the Organic Pet Lady.
Welcome to the Pet Prep Radio Show. This is Sheri, the Organic Pet Lady, and I'm back with you for another exciting hour of the Pet Prep Radio Show. I'm so glad you could join us. Rick Simpson's with us again this week, and he'll be joining us in just a few moments here. But first, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody listening everywhere. It seems that we're starting to get quite a following, and I'm very humbled by that and very grateful to you for caring about pets and caring about yourselves, and that you enjoy the information that I'm able to bring to the table, and I hope that it's helpful to you. Lord knows, it seems like every day the heat is just getting turned up, and I'm boiling, folks. My water's boiling over here. I get really concerned about what I see happening in the country and around the world on a daily basis, and I'm having nightmares and stuff like that. I know probably a lot of other people are too. Tell me about it if you are. I'm interested. So big welcome to not only the Preparedness Radio Network family, but also to the American Preppers Radio Network on PrepperBroadcasting.com. And it's so exciting. So today we're going to talk to Rick Simpson a little bit more. For those of you who haven't been able to catch the first 2 shows with Rick, Rick is a pioneer. He's very courageous human doing, and he has done a lot to help people get well, and you will enjoy this hour. I promise I'm not going to spend too much time talking here. I'm joined by Eli and Eli Key And Ziva has a nice little marrow bone, so if you hear any chewing, that's the Ziva. So they're hanging out. Okay, so educational, and let's do that handy-dandy disclaimer thing we do every week. All together now. Grab your glass of wine or a cold one there and say it with me. The Pet Prep Radio Show is for educational and entertainment purposes. The views expressed by myself or my guests may or may not be the opinions of the radio networks that we're currently being aired by. Remember that the information that you hear here is not a substitute for veterinary or medical care. Consult a topic-friendly professional or contact us for a referral. So welcome back, Rick. How are you?
Oh, just fine, Sheri, and I'm glad to be back with you. And I certainly identify with what you're saying about not resting too well these days. I think there's many people on this planet that are very concerned for the future. Literally the world seems to be going to hell in a handbasket, and it really is up to the people now to stand, for themselves and take their freedom back, and let's get these countries back, onto some kind of track that makes some sense. There's just been too much going on here, and I know we can make this world a better place. We just have to work together, and we have to get rid of these corrupted governments that have been causing all these problems.
It is really a great concern. I am having a lot of trouble sleeping, and I'm glad to know that I'm not alone. It really bothers me as of late. Just this week, going out and about to do the things that I have to do or can afford to do, which isn't much of anything these days, but just simple things and interacting with people. People are either really trying to get into your business that have no concept of, don't know you or anything. They're quick to assume and get into some kind of confrontation with you. And for what I don't know, or they're so asleep, they're like walking little, they're crabby and nasty, or they're just walking around with no clue what's going on whatsoever. And I think I attribute this, and I've been making jokes about it in a tongue-in-cheek sort of way. I'm very serious when I do joke about it. It's that, basically 95% of the folks out there are medicated, whether legally or illegally these days. And I really think that between the water that's being so contaminated and the stuff, whatever they're spraying on us, and the foods, the genetically modified foods that actually alter your DNA, people, that's why you're getting sick, and such, the pharmaceutical drugs. I really think it's so difficult without some kind of divine intervention to help people get out of the funk they're in. They're so stressed out with not being able to make the bills, and there's, the jobs aren't paying, and the bank fees are going up, and family issues, and everybody's crabby, nobody's relaxed. It really, I've never seen anything like this, Rick.
Well, it's not much wonder things are the way they are. They've got everyone stressed out so badly. This whole civilization that we've evolved into, it really doesn't make any sense. It's all, corporate. And the corporate world, I think, as we know it, at present, is beginning to fall apart. And, I know it's already fallen apart a great deal, in both the U.S. and Canada, because where did all our jobs go? They've gone overseas. So, I think we've been living in some kind of weird illusion that, we're just going to sit back and take it easy while people in other countries, produce everything we need, and we just sit here and live off the fat of the land. But that's really not the way it's going to be. I really do believe that we'll all have to roll up our sleeves and, and build a better world. And to do that, I think we have to get people out, back on the land, where they can be more self-sufficient, and getting, back in touch with nature again, which I think is very, very important. As a matter of fact, I don't think any child should even be raised in a city. The country living that's the place to raise a child, as far as I'm concerned. And what I see, the situation I see right now, I mean, we truly are in a desperate way, and and if we don't stand and do something about this, it's only going to get worse and worse. And not only for ourselves, but our pets and every other living creature on this planet, because in truth, I mean, the planet is becoming more and more toxic every day. And, animal life cannot survive, in a poison environment. So it really is up to us, to change this world. And I know if we get together, we can do it. And there's a lot of people coming together now. So I think in the very near future, we will see the change, and things will get better for us and also our pets, too.
Well, I sure hope so, Rick. I haven't lost complete and total faith in humanity yet, but it's been at a pretty big low, simply because it seems that, people are so stressed out, and they aren't on the land where life made sense on a daily basis. You were born at home, you worked on the family farm to provide for your family, and you died at home. People are, their animals lived with them in the house, in the barn, in the pastures. They saw the normal cycle of life, birth, life, and death. Everybody knew, kind of had a role and understood what that role was. I think it had gotten to the point where, people don't know what their role is anymore. It's anything goes. It's okay to be, whatever you want to be, but it seems like everything's stacked against you to be successful unless you're underhanded or, doing evil things to people and not taking responsibility for your actions. It just seems like the whole thing is just, they turned the turnip bin upside down. Men used to work and they were men. That's where men were men and sheep were scared. And I'm sorry. But men worked hard, so did women, and you had to work together or you didn't eat.
Well, that's what farm life was all about, working together. And they did require large families in those days, just to help with the chores. But I really do think that farming is the most honorable profession there is, and I really can't wait to see more people, come back to the land, because that's where the future is. They programmed us to move into their cities and towns and more or less become slaves for this corrupted system. And, you get into that situation for, 20, 30 years, and all of a sudden the factory closes, you don't have a job anymore, and you basically lose everything. Because, you have no self-sufficiency. You're at the mercy of the system for everything. And what I'm proposing is that, like I said, get people back on the land, where they can grow their own food, energy, medicine, and, an endless supply of other things. Nature can provide so much for us. And, it truly is a much, much better way of life, and it makes sense. We have to stop all this running around at 90 miles an hour. I know people that got 2 and 3 jobs, and they're just trying to stay alive. Well, that's not living. I don't mind a day's hard work or a lifetime of hard work. But, there is a certain point that and if you cross it, then you're just going to wind up exhausted. And this is what I see with so many people today. The stress of it all gets them. Pretty soon their doctors are filling them full of chemicals and pills, and which, again, just makes matters worse. And if anything, I think our life expectancy is going the other way. We're not gaining anymore. I think we're losing. I know that they give us all these numbers. I forget what it is now. The average man is supposed to live to 74. Well, I'm 63 years old, and I can tell you right now that I would say at least half the people I went to school with are no longer around. And many of them died, when they were young, like 20, 30, 40 years old. So if that estimate they gave us is correct, it seems to me that the ones that are left like me, I think I'm going to have to live to be about 200 years old to maintain that average. But unfortunately, today the system, they lie about everything to us. And with the news media going along with them, it's very hard for people to find the truth about anything. And I'm very grateful for shows like this, because this is all about the truth. Nobody can dispute what I'm saying, because I've been doing this for 10 years now. I mean, I've spoken in many different countries in Europe and elsewhere, and no one has ever tried to defrock me, because you simply cannot defrock the truth. You know, for us to have a future, we have to get back to the cannabis plant, because it literally can save mankind. And it can actually, take a lot of the pollution away that, we're surrounded with, because, hemp detoxifies the ground it's planted in. So to me, it's the only rational solution, for our future. And I think more and more people every day are fast coming to realize that.
I certainly hope so, Rick. Of course, I grew up during the 60s. I was very young, but I grew up listening to and watching the Vietnam War on TV, and I was very disturbed by it as a young girl. And they showed a lot of the folks going to like Woodstock and getting high and acting silly, and then of course Art Linkletter's daughter, I believe it was, that got high on LSD and jumped out of a hotel or apartment window to her death. And even my family, extremely conservative, church family. We grew up Mormonish, and and my grandfathers were both pastors, and coffee and tea, no dance were disallowed, no caffeine, like no dancing, and so on and so forth. So I grew up in this mindset, and the first encounter that I had with cannabis, a really good-looking boy moved into my school in elementary school in 5th grade, and they came from California, and she was a divorcee, and our family had a trucking company, and they helped bring the mail in from Cleveland to the area. So apparently the boy, Chris, boy was he cute, he came in on Valentine's Day, and his last name was Loveday, so it was an omen for me, instantly in love at 11 years old. And turns out he rode my bus home, and I had a heart attack, and then he got off the bus the next house right after mine. So it was wow, love it, love. So anyway, his mother apparently was getting High Times magazines through the trucking company, and somehow I overheard this conversation. That information in the house, I don't know. So my grandfather, my papa, just did not like Chris's mom. And I could never understand why. She was a really cool lady. She worked really hard. They had, some ponies. We used to ride them. And, she was never, like, unkempt. And she never, and that was the first time I had any kind of interaction with cannabis at all. So I couldn't figure out, what was wrong with my grandfather for not liking the person. And that got me thinking, well, as I grew older and life, took a turn and so on and so forth, I started meeting people as a teenager who were using this as a recreational thing. And those people, I just stayed away from the people that were trouble anyway. But, most of the people that I ever dealt with throughout my life were intellectual, very intelligent, held down very successful jobs. They weren't the kind of people that the society or culture was trying to tell me they were,
Well, I think the whole reason behind a lot of that, Sheri, is that the people that are running the world, basically they're either on pharmaceuticals or they're on liquor, and sometimes a combination of both. And when you're on substances like that, you don't make very rational decisions. And they've always stood against the use of cannabis for some obscure reason. I mean, I know there was a lot of propaganda put out years ago about this, and there still is propaganda out there. But none of it's based in fact. Cannabis has never hurt anybody, and like I said, all through history, it's always been known as man's safest medication. Non-addictive, and it's a wonderful medication for our animals too. But it just goes to show you the power of money. When you can take something as wonderful as the cannabis hemp plant and then distort it so badly that the vast majority of people on this planet do not even understand this subject. You know, they don't understand that this is truly a medicine and it is a wonderful food supply and so on and so on. But, you know, they would sooner believe the lies and propaganda. And that's really a very sad statement, you know, for the human race. But, you know, everything I'm telling people, you know, on this show, it's easy to verify. Just get on the Internet and do some simple research. You know, it's all there. The truth is there. But don't expect to hear it over your TV or read it in your newspaper because, again, that's mainstream media, and that's all controlled by the same big money people that are controlling our governments. So I think it's time to get rid of the big money. You know, we need to get back to reality, and I think hemp is definitely the best way that we can do that. As a matter of fact, I think it's the only way we can do it. Because what other plant can fulfill this role? You know, food supply, medicine, and building materials. I mean, you can make 50,000 different things from cannabis. And anything you can produce from petroleum, you can also produce from cannabis. So, you know, in an earth-friendly way, without pollution. So I think it's only sane for us to start looking at the cannabis, you know, hemp plant in a whole different light and begin to use it properly. And I want to see this plant made completely legal again, the same as it was all through history. And, you know, all this nonsense about decriminalization and taxing and all the rest of it, I don't think anybody should have to pay taxes for growing hemp. You know, it's a God-given plant. And like I said, they never really had the right to outlaw it in the first place. It was all done, you know, for corporate reasons. And in other words, they put, you know, human life, or they put profit margins ahead of human life. And if that's the type of world where we are living in, and obviously it is, then, you know, then there's no question that things have to change.
Yes, and I believe that people need to try to come to an understanding and to open their eyes to be able to see this, that so many people are in denial about the way that things are being done in society, and, they would never do that to us, this, that, and the other thing. But no, they would never do that to anyone. That's why they bully people and put people that are looking for a way to get well and take care of pain management issues and deal with post-traumatic stress disorder amongst a myriad of health issues that can be healed and turned around by cannabis. That's why they prey on them and make examples out of them, and the Gestapo puts them in jail for nonviolent crime like using a plant for medicine. And I think it's absolutely insane to do that to folks. That's how they keep us all terrified. You know, if you would use the medication, you know, you're labeled as a very bad person. And that mindset has to change, especially in the churches where they're, you know, they even brainwashed me up, telling me, you know, how bad it, you know, everything is. And I said, you know, I really don't agree with you. And I had a lengthy conversation with this person I know, and she's a groomer. And I said, don't you think that, you know, everybody in the church atmosphere, they say, you know, well, it's pharmakia. No, pharmakia is pharmaceutical. Yahweh, when he made everything and created everything in the garden, he said he made every plant and seed bearing tree and plant for our use, and it was good. He declared it good. So if it's good, how can it be bad? And that is a concern. So I think a lot of people, they want to use the medicine, but they're afraid of losing, you know, being put into prison because of that, you know. And I think they don't know how it works either. And I was wondering if maybe we could, I know it's kind of a big topic to get into before break, but how can we encourage people to wake up, or how can we help people to help other people in their circle around them? You know, only takes a spark to get a fire going, right? What can we do? Do you have maybe an idea of how we could help people to open that conversation with people around them that might not feel comfortable about it?
Well, I mean, what we need more educated people on this subject. But I mean, that's happening as we speak, because there's literally now hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people, worldwide using this medicine for both their own health and the health of their pets. But it's taken some time, but it's building and building. But I think in the very near future, the whole thing is going to bust wide open. I'm planning to go to Spain this fall, and with this group that I've come in contact with in England called Dark City Radio. They want to go there and get a big compassion club underway, and they want me to take part in it. And I suggested that we bring the Phoenix Tears Foundation in and kind of, unite, because in reality we're all after the same thing, And once we start curing people on a grand scale, then I think the rest of the countries will just fall like dominoes, because every country needs this medicine, and they need it now. So I think the change will come very rapidly. But go ahead, dear.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, maybe people are afraid of the effects of and if you didn't join us for the first two shows, Rick discovered how to make the essential oil out of the cannabis plant. He discovered how to do this and healed himself of skin cancer, and he's helped over 5,000 people by making the medicine and giving it away to people, and which is extremely generous. It's so awesome you did that. What are the effects? I think we have like a couple of minutes left before break here, and then we can talk about it some more. But what are the effects, like if they were to be able to, utilize your website and get your book and learn how to make the medicine, or someone else did it for them? What are the effects like? What do they have? They don't have anything to be afraid of, do they, Rick?
No, nothing whatsoever. I mean, if you follow our dosage instructions right on phoenixtears.ca, we explain to people how the medicine should be taken and how to step up your doses. And there literally is nothing to be feared. As a matter of fact, I've had a lot of people go right through the entire treatment, and they said they never got high. But I mean, if a person, we're all different, and we all have different tolerances. So if you take the little tiny doses that I suggest in the beginning, and if you feel the effect of it and you don't like it, well, then just cut your dosage back a little bit. Stay in your comfort zone. This is what I suggest to people. But in reality, the name of the game is to get this oil into you as quickly as possible, to get ahead of the disease that you're suffering from, and then it can be driven back. And that works the same in animal life too. But what I love about animals are not so bashful. Like when they're sick and you give them something that's good for them, they don't mind taking it, and they don't worry about an overdose. And like I said, nobody has ever died from the effects of this medicine, so there is absolutely nothing to fear.
Well, that's wonderful. And on that note, we're going to need to take a little bit of a break, so please support our sponsors. And this is Sheri, the Organic Pet Lady, welcoming and talking with Rick Simpson for a third conversation. And we'll rejoin him after the break, so we'll return after this.
Hey, I'm Frank Bates. I just created a free video at survivewithsolar.com that exposes the electricity monopolies and the government for what they really are, incompetent, lying crooks that are counting on your fear to keep your power bills criminally high. My video at survivewithsolar.com exposes the truth and shows you the secret of how I beat them and how you can beat them too. Go to survivewithsolar.com and discover one weird trick to slash your power bill and protect your home before they make me shut it down. Again, that's survivewithsolar.com.
Well, welcome back to Pet Prep Radio Show. This is Sheri, the Organic Pet Lady, and I'm talking to my guest, Rick Simpson. And just before we went to break, we were talking a little bit about did anybody have anything to be afraid about when it came to using the essential oil of the cannabis hemp plant with themselves or their animals. And Rick was telling us absolutely not. There's nothing to fear. And I think fear is what holds people back from doing a lot of things. Fear of the unknown, or something new, or a change, or something because they've been told all their life it's not good for them, and so on. So I mean, Sheri, if people want to fear something, they should be fearing the medications that the doctors provide. Because even the simplest things that we get in a drugstore, like aspirin. Thousands of people are dying from aspirin every year.
And aspirin is looked at as being benign. Now, I mean, nobody dies from cannabis, for God's sakes. So, like I said, it's a medical system that we should fear, and the pharmaceutical industry and the garbage that they produce. Because in reality, I mean, these substances that they're making, I don't see how anybody with a brain in their head could actually classify it as medicine. Since when is poison medicine? They've done a wonderful brainwashing routine, to get people thinking this way. But, the reality of it just screams at you. I mean, if you ask a 10-year-old kid if just ask them, is poison good for you? Or is radiation good for you? Instantly, that child will tell you no. But yet, ask your family doctor the same question, and he'll tell you, well, they need to use these substances to treat you effectively. Well, that's a bald-faced lie. And for the most part, what I see today, doctors are little more than drug dealers for the pharmaceutical industry. They're all filling their pockets. The drug companies are giving them all these perks and free trips, so they like it the way it is. And but unfortunately, it's not doing much for the animals they're treating or the people, because, I mean, we're the ones that are suffering and dying for no reason other than the fact that they will not provide a natural medicine that works. And it's not that these medicines aren't available. Well, I mean, look at hemp oil. It's right there in front of us, the greatest preventative medicine on this planet. And I think it's the greatest treatment that one can possibly take. But yet, doctors will try to stay away from it. They'll tell their patients to stay away from it, because to do otherwise would be bad for business.
That's a very insidious thing to know that this is very insidious what they're doing, and then to learn that the allopathic medical society has been betraying us all these years. A lot of people, it might be too much for them to take, but if you get pissed off enough about the fact that Aunt Susie could have lived, I have an aunt right now in Buffalo that's fighting cancer, and it would be nice if she was open-minded enough to spend a little money and get well this way rather than kill herself with chemo. But do you think I could convince her? No. She would look at me as if I was from the devil, and that's a very big concern I have. And one of the things that I see as a barrier for people that are, say, on a disability income that want to try and that want to use this medicine, they have financial things that keep them from being able to move forward, to get well. We're basically in medical slavery.
That's right.
Maybe we could talk a little bit about the plant itself, because I didn't really get a chance to talk to you about it, in particular. Now, the plant, the type of plant, there's 3 different kinds of cannabis hemp, and could you tell us about that a little bit?
Well, there's ruderalis, and that's basically industrial hemp from Russia. And then there's the indicas, and then there's the sativas. But, the government has gone out of, the big money has gone out of their way to, to try to keep everybody mixed up. Years ago, they hung the name of marijuana on this plant. And so many people today still run around, and they'll ask me, they'll say, well, why do you call it hemp? And I tell them, I call it hemp because that's what it is. It is hemp. Marijuana is just one of over 400 slang terms that are used worldwide to, to describe this plant. But it is the word that our governments and the big money use to discredit this plant. And personally, I hate the word. If you want to call it something, call it cannabis hemp or simply hemp. But as far as marijuana and all those other silly names they have for it, ganja, Mary Jane, and God knows what else, the list just goes on and on. That really has done much to mix people up. But it really all is just the cannabis hemp plant. And, some strains of cannabis have very little resin. That's the type of strains that they classify as being industrial because it has very little healing resin present. But the heavy medicinal strains are literally just covered in resin. and that's what I produce the medicine from. So, it's just a play on words is all it really is. And I would much prefer if we all just started calling it hemp. Whether it's strong or not, I don't think it really makes any difference.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So the plant itself, everybody talks about THC, the tetrahydrocannabinol or something like that.
Tetrahydrocannabinol. But that's just one of the cannabinoid compounds, that the resins contain. And the last count I heard, and that was from one of the top experts in the world, he had told me that they had isolated 108 different cannabinoids, and he felt there was still more to be found. So we have a lot, yet to learn about this plant. But we can do this in a very short time, while we're healing our pets and while we're healing ourselves, because the medicine does not present any danger. But people should be aware of the fact that all cannabis is not created equal. Some strains are more effective for certain conditions than other strains. So, what I would suggest to anybody, if you're buying it to treat cancer, or you're buying it like buying seeds to try to find pain relief, then if you go to these seed companies, much of the time now they will describe the different strains that they sell, and they'll also have a few notes there about their medical values. So I would strongly suggest that people, I know the cost of it going to drug dealers the cost is just horrendous. So I'm always telling people it really is best just to grow your own. And it's a great little hobby, too, once you get started with it. As a matter of fact, I've always said there's nothing addictive about this plant other than the growing of it, because it seems that once you start growing, it's very hard to stop. You just want to keep growing it. I love to grow, and so many people that I've treated that I gave seeds to, they contacted me later, and they women in their 70s and 80s, and they told me, they said, we look at this like a hobby, and it's a wonderful hobby, and they really enjoy it. So I think in the near future, or at least I hope in the near future, we'll all have the freedom to grow this plant once more, and it's going to change things so radically, in all ways. The world as we know it, within 5 years, I don't think we'll even recognize it. The cannabis is going to have that big an impact. And as I said, it can provide millions and millions of earth-friendly jobs in hemp-related industries. There's just no end to the benefits. Some people, yes, you'll lose your job in the pill factory. Well, big loss. But, there's so much more employment to be found when like I said, when you put people back in the land and you grow this plant in a big way, there will be no shortage of jobs. So I really firmly believe that cannabis holds our future.
It's pretty fascinating, to me, even though I know some things about it, as far as the benefits and not only medicinally but also industrially. There used to be an old adage people would walk around and say, hey, you want to go smoke some rope, And I had no
I've heard
idea.
That too.
I had no idea what that meant. My father said it one day. My dad was kind of a wild child, and but I had no idea what he meant. But as I learned about hemp, I started learning about how incredible the uses were and how it would help us. The logging industry really doesn't want you to grow hemp because it's going to put them out of business. But the logging industry has basically logged so many trees that everything is warming up because there aren't enough trees to filter out that heat and the pollution and so on and so forth. So if we don't start growing hemp, we are all going to be dead. A lot of people are going to be underground, but they won't last long there either. That's not the answer. The answer is fibers and and having fresh, clean air to breathe, and our soil being reclaimed, and having clothes that last without having to get all that lint out of the lint catcher.
Right.
Right? It's good for starting fires, but it's really not good for anything else.
Nothing much else. That's quite true, dear. So Rick, you want to share with us a little bit about the foundation, the Phoenix Tears Foundation? Well, the Phoenix Tears Foundation is based in Colorado, and at present it's run by Janet Sweeney, and Janet is doing a wonderful job. I'm not directly involved with the foundation, although Janet and I talk all the time, and I give her advice, about what I think. And but Janet has been a wonderful asset, and she's done some just terrific work in the U.S. Actually in Colorado, I think if it hadn't been for her, that these recent laws that are put in place, I don't think they would have happened if it hadn't been for Janet and a few others down there, because they're great activists and they know how to get their point across. But the simple truth of this plan is, there's no logical reason why people shouldn't be growing this. And if we grew this on a large scale, there's no need to even cut down one more tree. We can make all our pulp and paper products and everything right from the cannabis plant. And as I understand it, over the lifetime that it takes to grow a tree, I think it's around 40 years they base it on. Well, cannabis, if you actually grew cannabis, you could produce 4 times more material to produce paper than you can, off of 1 acre of hemp. You can produce 4 times more material as compared to that same acre growing trees. Now, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against trees. As a matter of fact, I would love to see many of our areas, be allowed to grow up again the way they should be, to provide animal habitat. But what I see in so many countries, and I know here in Canada, so much of this farmland that was big open fields when I was young, it's all just grown up into bushes now. So I don't think there's any shortage of farmland to grow this. And I know one argument I had, you'll hear it from the energy companies, if you started planting cannabis, to provide energy and everything, it would use up all our valuable farmland. Well, that's a bald-faced lie, because, cannabis itself is a farm crop. And I think the most nutritious food on earth is hemp seeds. And believe me, this plant is very prolific when it comes to producing seeds. So, it's like I said, there is really no rational excuse as to why, we're not allowed to grow this on a grand scale. It's just all about the money. And they want to keep us under control. And if we have the freedom to grow this plant again in a very short time, there will be no controlling us. We will guide our own destiny. And I think that's what we'll have to do if we wish to survive, because we see the path that these rich people have put us on, and that truly is the road to destruction. So it's up to us to make the change, and with the help of this plant, we should have little trouble doing just that.
Well, it's interesting for the people listening. We're taping this on Independence Day here in the U.S., and which is almost an oxymoron. But the flag that is being flown over the U.S. Capitol today is actually made of hemp.
I'm not surprised. And look at our founding fathers, for God's sakes. Look at George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin. These people were all heavily involved in hemp, and they were pot smokers for the most part. If those founding fathers were alive today, they would be called potheads. The same people that wrote the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, for God's sakes. If we had simply never veered from the Constitution, America would be a totally different country. But these corrupted politicians and the big money behind them, they've literally taken the Constitution and ripped it up and thrown it in our faces. And that, really, that is what the U.S. is founded on. So, how dare they do that? As far as I'm concerned, these people are nothing more than criminals. So what I'm asking Americans to do, start following your Constitution. And if you have an enemy within, which is your government, then I don't have to tell you what to do. It's time to roll up your sleeves and get rid of them.
Well, that's what they're afraid of. They actually are doing a secret. It's not very secret because people know about it now. But they're doing a secret exercise in riot gear, and we've heard that 50,000 Russian soldiers are on standby for some kind of event that may or may not occur, and so that they can take care of the people that are upset about whatever it is that's coming. And, I think, folks, that if you value, having a home of your own or your own private space, what's left of privacy. Not sure there is any, but the privacy you still have left and the right to own animals and the right to raise your own children in the way that you see fit, you need to do some soul searching and really look within and get that courage that is in you and stop watching TV and listening to all that garbage and get some serious, truthful information and get down on your knees and pray about it. Get wisdom. The book of Proverbs, King Solomon was the wisest man to ever live, and he wrote, Ecclesiastes, and he wrote Proverbs. There's a lot of wisdom in there, and one of the things that you really want is wisdom. So if you don't have it, get it, and learn how to make decisions quickly. Go out and learn how to start a fire in your backyard. Trust me, we tried making a fire 3 different times this week. No matter what we threw on it, whether it was gas or anything, it didn't want to start. So just because you know how to make a fire doesn't mean it's gonna. You gotta go out and practice, right? Like Rick was saying, go outside, do something, practice. Or my mother, she used to say, be one with your navel or something. Kind of start focusing and thinking about these things, because one of these days, I had a nightmare recently. It was very, very real. I looked up into the sky, and there was this plane, big plane, and I actually saw it on Facebook yesterday. I almost freaked out. And I saved a picture of it because this plane was going over our house, and I saw this silver white thing coming out of it, and next thing you know, there were 4 or 5 more silver white things coming out of this plane. They were parachuters, and they were parachuting down, and, they were coming to take care of business. Apparently, I don't know, I woke up in one of my cats was here, Star, and she was very concerned about me. And I woke up, breathing and sweating and thinking, gosh, it's really happening. So it could happen.
Well, I understand how people could feel that way, but I really don't think that too much, from our there's a lot of people within the military that really do know what's going on, and do they want to kill their own citizens, and do they not want this medication in use themselves? Of course they do. So what I've said right along is I think actually the system is going to eat itself from within. And one of these days, these rich types that are running the planet are going to give the government an order, and the government's going to order their troops into some country or order them to do something. And I think what's going to happen is I think the troops are just going to refuse. And I know there has been some police agencies that have actually started to begin siding with protesters. Because, we're the ones that pay their salary. They're supposed to be working for us, for God's sakes. But, they'll take clubs and beat us over the head. But I think that those days are fast coming to an end, and I really do believe that, like I said, that the system will destroy itself. Because, you can't stand in the way of such a simple truth. Like when you look at all about this plant and you understand this plant, how dare anyone say that they have the right to control it? That plant belongs to you, it belongs to me, it belongs to everyone. And like I said, it's the only thing that can give us a future. So I think there's a few more like me out there that really do not want to see this planet destroyed, and I would like to see a future for mankind. And if we use this plant properly, that's just what we'll have, a decent future. And this is what they're so against, because their future, there's nothing decent in the path that they have us on right now. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be a bit surprised that we could all wind up extinct in about 20 years. Because, our immune systems are being compromised more and more by all of these toxins and poisons. And, like when you're walking around with a compromised immune system, you're just a disease waiting to happen. So I think, it's all about our health and about clearing our thinking processes. And cannabis is very effective for doing that, too. So
I agree. Yeah.
It is the future. There's no question in my mind.
Well, Rick, I just, every time I talk to you, I think of more things I'd love to talk to you about, and I just want to tell you how grateful I am that you're able to spend as much time with us here at Pep Rep Radio Show as you've been able to, and you're invited to come back again when you have more time And we wish you all of the best with throughout your travels and such. And we'd like to ask real quickly here, what can people do? I see here on your website you have a media bomb campaign that's attracted. It's targeted a targeted effort to attract mainstream attention to the issue of cannabis extract medicine. So,
my whole website's about basically just educating people, and phoenixtears.ca is a great source of information about this subject, and also I'm selling my books over the site too. We put out the first book last July. They're only available right now as ebooks, but we put out Phoenix Tears, the Rick Simpson story, last July, and that's been doing quite well. And I think the second book is supposed to come out, I believe, today. And it's called Phoenix Tears, the Rick Simpson Oil, Nature's Answer for Cancer. And I would just like to remind people, it's like I said, I know we've done a lot of talking about humans in this series, but anything that this oil can do for a human, it can do for an animal too. So I would like people to keep that in mind, and if you have a sick pet or any animal that you care about, this is a very viable way of treating it, rather than running to the vet every 15 minutes and spending all that money. And also, like I said, if for thousands of years this was used as a food source for your stock. There's nothing better, like pigs and cows and different creatures like that. They can benefit greatly by eating this plant. And I'll tell you one thing, it's a whole lot better than that genetically modified nonsense they're shoving into cows these days. So, I just encourage people to, sit down, take a little break, get on the computer for an hour, and check out what we're saying. And I'm sure you're going to find everything we're telling you is the truth. And this is the path to a better future. So, for God's sakes, get off your Chesterfields and let's do something about this.
That's right. That's right. Well, my goodness, Rick, it's been wonderful. I just, like I said, I just can't thank you enough for spending time with me and with the folks that are listening. And when you get a chance, get back in touch with me, and we'll do some more talking here. But folks, this has been Rick Simpson with us from phoenixtears.ca, and I hope you guys will check out his website, get the book. He's an incredible human being, a human doing, and he really cares. And if you care about your pets, you care about your family, you will do this. You will do the research. You will spend time on his website. You will get the knowledge, and you will start taking care of your family and yourself using this very important plant. And it can change the world. This is what we can do, as Rick has said again and again. And you can't say it enough. People, we just appreciate you listening. Be sure, if you have any questions or you need resources, either email Rick. Rick, do you have an email?
You can get in touch with me through Phoenix Tears. It's phoenixtearsadmin@gmail.com.
Very cool. You can email Rick. You can find him on Facebook, and you can, find him through his website. And if you need any recommendations or references, if there's anything I can do to help you, feel free to get in touch with me also at petprepradioshow@gmail.com. And, join us next time when we hope to have another interesting show. And we look forward to hearing from you. And remember, people, remember to hug your family. Tell them you love them. And hug your pets. Be sure you take good care of them, especially in this hot weather. And remember, if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. We'll see you the next time on Pet Prep Radio Show.